Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to the second day of the RCI CRE Southern Regional Webinar on overcoming challenges of children with deafblindness and multiple disabilities. So today we have 3 sessions. So 2 sessions will be taken by Karthik Rao sir. So the sessions are on sensory integration. And the third session will be on movement therapy, which will be taken by Ms. Andrea Jacob. So today we have with us Mr. Karthik Rao sir. I welcome you, sir, to the second day of the webinar, and thank you for accepting our invite, sir. And a short introduction about Karthik Rao sir. Mr. Karthik Rao sir is an internationally trained and certified therapist with more than 17 years of experience working with children with special needs. He has more than 9 years of work experience in our NGO, the Spastics Society of TamilNadu, and he is the proprietor and partner for Srishti Therapy Center and Srishti Child Development Center in Chennai. Presently, he is working as the head of quality and training, Jogo Biofeedback Clinic in Chennai. And he has been the course writer for early childhood special education enabling inclusion of cerebral palsy, which is conducted by Indira Gandhi National Open University. And he is also the co-author of Manual on Basic Developmental Therapy published by Spastics Society of Tamil Nadu. And he has also conducted more than 70 workshops and training programs in various parts of our country. And he is also a consultant to Rehabilitation Research and Design Development, Department of Mechanical Engineering, IIT Madras. So we welcome you, sir, and we are all happy that you are part of our webinar, and I hope all the participants will pay attention to the session, and participants kindly mute your audio and video when you are not speaking. And at the end of the session, you will get time to interact with sir. At that time, you can ask your questions. So thank you, and I welcome you, sir.
Thank you for the warm introduction. So I would have a small request to all of you, which is like I want to make it more interactive. So I want you to open the chat box, okay, and just as we go along, I would like you to put some messages in the chat box so that I understand that you are able to follow the discussion. And at any point of time, my connectivity is an issue or I'm too fast, please let me know so that I can slow down. So having said that, thank you. I would like to thank the organization Spastics Society for inviting me. I've been part of SPASTN for quite a long period, so I understand the culture, and it's like going back to your mother's home. I guess that's how people will talk about, the married women will talk about, right? So something similar to that I'm feeling right now. Nice to be back virtually in SPASTN. And so let me start the session. So today we are going to look at 2 topics related to sensory integration. And let me start my screen share, and then you can let me know if you're able to see it. Yes, can you see my screen on sensory integration activities for children with deaf blindness? Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So, so today's topic is going to be sensory integration activities for children with deaf blindness and multisensory impairment. And before I could go further into this, I wanted to have an overview of the main things that we need to consider before giving any activities. And so I'm not going to go into the theory of sensory integration, but a few things which are directly relevant to what we're going to do, because without that understanding, it becomes difficult to give activities, and it will be a monotonous thing without much of a variation, without much of a customization. And I believe the customization is the key word when we work with children with special needs, because every child is unique, so we cannot have one size fits all concept. So it's important for us to understand the concept, and only when we understand the concept, it becomes easier for us to customize it. So having said that, so let's look at some situations. Okay, our brain is like an engine. Sometimes it runs too fast. Okay, it's like you're in a run mode or too fast mode. Sometimes it's in a too high level. It could be like you're anxious, excited, crying, hyperactive, tensed, stressed, frustrated. And so what you can see here is that it can be positive, it can be negative. When I say positive, excitement is a positive thing, enthusiasm and excitement. And at the same time, it can also be like you're angry or frustrated, something. Even then, the engine level is high. And then there are times when the engine runs at the right speed, which is like a just right mode, where you feel calm, alert, you're calm enough and relaxed, alert enough at the same time. And you're relaxed, you're fresh, eager, and open. So you can look at the lady reading something on a book and she's enjoying it. So you're actually 100% involved in whatever you do. And sometimes it is too low. Okay, when you're drowsy, sleepy, daydreaming. So these are the times when your engine level is too low. So you can think of waking up to the nature's call in the middle of the night and staggering towards the restroom. So, or just waking up from bed and then hitting the snooze button and going back to your bed. So that would be a time when your engine level is too low. Or post lunch, like after a heavy meal at around 2-3, you feel drowsy and sleepy, right? So so I'm happy that we have a session in the morning, and that tells you like the engine level is too low. So what is it that we're actually talking about the engine level? What do I mean by engine level? Can somebody just put in the chat box? What is the engine level I'm talking about? Engine is just you can say a way to understand it. I would want it to be interactive so that I understand that people are following me. Yeah, so just a single word. What is the engine level I'm talking about?
Our body, sir. Engine level is our body.
Yeah, so can you put it in the chat box instead of unmuting yourself? And engine level is, thanks for the response. I would definitely appreciate that. And engine level I'm looking at is the arousal level or the alertness level. Okay, so how are we alert? Okay, and so if I can go back to the slides, you can see that the alertness level is different at different times of the day, right? So that is what I'm talking about. So my question is, are engine levels the same throughout the day? Yes or no? You can just put it in the chat box, Y or N. Is our engine level, the alertness level, same throughout the day? Y or N? Yeah, I get one response as no, 2 no's. I'll probably wait for a couple more. Yes, you're all right. Engine levels are not the same throughout the day, right? Early morning we are more fresh, afternoons we are dull. Okay, evenings we might be fresh again, right? So it keeps on changing. So it goes in something like a wave-like pattern. Okay, as you wake up, your engine level is very low, and then you have a bath, you go to work. Okay, you travel for some time, then you go to work. Your first hour is always the most productive, and after that you want to take a tea break, right? So your engine level comes down. So it goes in a wave-like pattern throughout the day. And by the time you hit the bed in the night, you are too tired, you want to sleep, right? So you don't want to do anything else. And what do we actually do when we go to bed is we switch off the lights, we switch off the television. Do we do it because we want to save electricity? No, it's more because we are doing because our brain needs to rest. We have to go to a sleep, right? So what is happening here is we are trying to cut down sensory input, okay, and we're trying to help the brain to go to sleep. Now, if we look at the wave-like pattern, you can also see that when you feel stretched, when you feel your arousal level is going down, it is most of the times happens on those times when you are actually not doing something new or engaging or changing. For example, you're waiting in a doctor's clinic for 2 hours or 3 hours. You're waiting in a railway station where nothing is happening. Your train is like you've probably reached too early, or your train is running late, or you're working at a desk and you have to do some reading or writing. Okay, right? So you cannot read more than half an hour, 45 minutes at a stretch. After that, you need to take a break, right? So when you do some task which is monotonous, the brain actually is wired in such a way that anything which is constant, the brain stops responding to that. The brain stops taking in that information unless you're motivated. So there are other factors also, your motivational levels, your emotion levels, and this will be other factors. But other than that, purely from a sensory input perspective, if the input is constant, the brain stops responding. Okay, now let's take imagine the example of we have this month of Adi, and in which there will be a lot of temples. They'll have loudspeakers blaring with all devotional songs. It will be next to your house. It will be very loud, and when it starts, you find it so irritating. But after some time, you stop responding to that. You don't even recognize that there is a loud noise going near in the neighborhood. But suddenly, when they stop it, you feel like someone has left you. You feel so silent and so kind of alone when this sound stops, right? So brain actually picks up changes rather than constant inputs. If it is a constantly changing input, then the brain will continue to stay active. So for example, it could be a wedding in the family. For example, your brother or sister is getting married tomorrow, and tonight even at 12 or 1 or 2 a.m., you're not going to feel sleepy. You'll have a lot of things going around. You'll have a lot of work, and you'll have a lot of relatives and friends to talk about and chat about. So we don't sleep on those times. You don't sleep on a New Year's Eve if you're celebrating that, right? So why is it not happening? Is because it's something happening all the time, and there is a constant changing sensory input. Okay, whereas if the input is constant, the brain goes into a sleep mode. Is it clear so far? Please type C in the chat box if you are clear with whatever I have suggested so far. Please type C for clear. I'll try to minimize your work. Yes, okay, good. And then how do we wake up in the morning? So we wake up in the morning by using an alarm, right? So we switch on an alarm, we set an alarm, and when the alarm rings, we get up. Not all of us are fortunate enough to wake up at 6 a.m. or predetermined time without an alarm, right? So most of us depend on the alarm. So alarm is a sensory input, right? So as you can see in this slide, that throughout the day, whatever we do, we are bombarded with sensory input. At times, if it is constant, the brain stops responding. So if the brain stops responding, our arousal level goes down, the engine level goes down. When we have tea or coffee or lunch or go for a walk, our alertness level increases. So the sensory inputs are the ones which is going to determine whether the engine levels. Okay, so that would be the statement I would like to make. The sensory inputs determine the engine levels. So this is the optimum engagement band. So what does it mean? If you can look at these 3 states of mind, then we can look at the excited state, the just right level, and the drowsy state. So what you see is that the drowsy state or the excited state, we do not engage in activities much, but whereas when it is just right state, we are most productive. So a child would be maximally engaged, be it physical activity, a physiotherapy session, or an occupational therapy, or a special education session, only when the child's arousal level is in the just right mode. So my question to you all, what is your engine level? You can use the abbreviations TH, JR, TL. Okay, too high, just right, too low right now. And just put it in the chat box. Too too high. Okay, nice to know that. It's not typically possible in a virtual environment, but I'm happy to see that response. Yeah, okay, so too high, good. Yeah, just right, good. Yeah, thank you, thanks for the responses. Okay, now I understood that if my previous slide was very clear, that we are most productive or we are most engaging in a task when the engine level. So I would assume yes, because I don't want to spend too much time on the chat. So we can change our engine levels. We have two kinds of inputs: calming inputs and alerting inputs. Okay, so there are certain types of sensory inputs which will help us to calm down. For example, you are stressed, you want to listen to some melodious music. Okay, that is a calming input. Okay, or you are you're not in a good mood. Your friend is compulsively taking you to some disco, or it could be a light music show, or some or to a theme park or to a beach. Okay, and then you're actually you feel much better after that because it's an alerting input. So we have two kinds of input: calming as well as alerting. So each sensory system will have different kinds of inputs which will help us to do both calm as well as to alert. Okay, so we have for vision, we have soft colors, dim light, static light. Okay, so these are all calming inputs, whereas alerting inputs will be like colorful lights, bright lights, changing lights. Okay, think of a disco. And when it comes to touch, we have deep touch, which is calming. Okay, the touch, a hug is actually calming. We have the Vasul Raja movie, we have Kattipudi Vaidyam, right? Something like that. So you hug somebody, you feel good about it. Okay, the deep touch is calming. And then we have this rhythmic tapping, the way you would put an infant to sleep. Okay, you'll tap on a rhythmic basis. So that is a calming input. Light touch, people may generally think that light touch is calming, but actually light touch is alerting. If you imagine a cockroach sitting on your shoulder, you'll start panicking even before knowing what it is. Okay, so if such a light touch is moving on your body, then we become more alert. Okay, a moving touch or an unexpected touch. You're watching a horror movie and somebody's touching you from behind, right? So that's an unexpected touch. Okay, so you'll all these things are alerting. Anything which is unexpected is going to be alerting. And then you have slow movement or linear movement or rhythmic movement. So these are like, for example, you can think of a child who is put on a hammock, okay, and or a cradle, and then you are trying to rock the baby. So that is a slow movement which is linear and rhythmic and steady. We are not going to shake him. We are not going to do like something like a here and there, right? Move around. But whereas when you think of a roller coaster, okay, so that would be a alerting vestibular input, where it's fast, it is angular, it's not going to be a straight line, it is arrhythmic, sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's slow, and then it will have frequent starts and stops, changes in direction. So all these things will be alerting vestibular input. And then for auditory, we have like soft sounds, monotonous voice, like the way you would sing a song for in the night for a baby to sleep. That would be a soft voice. You'll try to be as low as possible. It will be, or sometimes with some lectures, take out notes and start dictating us, and we start writing it on the notebooks. And then at the end of after the semester, you can look at notebooks and you will know exactly on what days you felt sleepy, because your handwriting would show it that way, right? So if the topic is not interesting, if the way it is being conveyed is not interesting, it is like a monotonous voice, it will put you to sleep. And then melodious songs will help us to calm down. Whereas alerting inputs like loud noise, voice varying with pitch and intensity, fast tempo, like our dance items, Gana pattern, all these things will increase your alertness level. And proprioception, if it is rhythmic, it helps us to calm down. Okay, rhythmic means it could be, so even jumping on a trampoline can be calming. Okay, and whereas we all know about this Nataraja dance, like Lord Shiva, when he's angry, he starts dancing, right? This physical activity, which is rhythmic, helps them to calm down. And you go for a walk when you're upset, so that helps us to calm down. So proprioception along with vestibular helps us to calm down. And to alert, like frequently changing activities like an obstacle course will increase alertness levels. And then we have resistive activities. Resistive activities does both. It helps us to calm down when you're too high, and when it also does the opposite. It helps us to stay alert when you feel dull and drowsy. So it does both. Okay, so let me stop here and quickly get back to you on any. Is that clear so far? What we have discussed? We have So please type C in the chat box. So we essentially have two kinds of sensory inputs. The sensory inputs can be calming or alerting, and as you can see, different sensory systems have a variety of ways in which you can do, and for not everything works for everybody, right? For some kids, they might need more auditory. Some kids may need more visual, some kids may need more tactile. So that is how we have to customize according to the child. For some kids, it has to be a combination. You'll have to have a loud music along with a fast movement on the swing, which will help them to increase their arousal level. Yeah. So please type C in the chat box if you're clear so far. Yeah. I guess this would be easier for people who are on watching this on a laptop than on people on phone. So I'll just take a couple of responses. It's a little fast. Okay, thank you for the feedback. I'll slow it down. Do you think? Yeah, I'm sure all of you are aware of it. Vision, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. But in addition to these, we have two more, which is the vestibular and the proprioception. So let me go back to the vestibular now, because not many people know about vestibular. People know that if I move, I'm on a swing, it is vestibular. But let me be more clear about it. The vestibular system is present in the ear, and it gives two main functions. It tells two main things. One is, where is gravity? Okay, how is my body related to gravity? So it's sense of gravity. So it's called the vestibular system. And because we have to understand gravity to maintain balance. Okay, so if I have to stand upright, I should know how is my body related to gravity. And so that is related to balance. It's also called as the sense of balance. The vestibular system is called as the sense of balance. But in effect, we are looking at the perception of gravity is through the vestibular organ. The next function of vestibular system is to know the direction of movement. Okay, so which direction am I moving? Am I going forward? I'm going backward? I'm going up, like in a lift, okay, or an escalator, or an elevator, or it could be anything like a roller coaster. So what is the direction I'm going? In a train, okay, even with my eyes closed, I know whether I'm going forward or backward. Is the train, what direction is the train moving? So that is vestibular. Okay, so the vestibular system has two main functions. I'm repeating. One is gravity. One is direction of movement. So when we have both these inputs, so when will we have this? We will have these kind of inputs on two occasions, obviously. One is when your body is moving, not when the body is static. Okay, when I'm static, only gravity I will understand, but I will not understand the direction of movement. So when I'm moving, I get the sense of movement. So I need to have both. So typically that tells you that if a child is stationary in a particular position, in sitting, standing, or lying position, the child is not going to get much of a vestibular input. The child will get only some amount of gravitational input, but again, if the child is constantly being in that position, that's not going to be enough. The other sense, so that is the vestibular. So if it is clear, if that is clear, please type V in the chat box, V for vestibular, if you are clear with the vestibular thing. Two things, direction and direction of movement and gravity. Yeah. The next thing is the proprioception. Now the proprioception is essentially a feedback that we get from muscles and joints. Okay, so which means I with my eyes closed, I'm able to bend my elbow or stretch my elbow. I know that my elbow is moving. When I'm catching a ball, I'm looking at the ball. I'm not looking at my hands. I know where my hands are. Okay, so subconscious awareness of your body parts. Okay, so that is the proprioception. So proprioception is going to get activated whenever we are going to do some physical work, especially whenever we are going to use our muscles for to do any kind of movement. Okay, and even when we are not doing movement, we still get some amount of joint sense, which tells us where our body parts is in space. For example, right now, if you just close your eyes, you can say what is the position of your ankle, okay, or your knee. You can always say that. That is the proprioception. Proprioception again has two components. One is muscle, one is joint. Okay, so whenever the muscle is going to work, that is contraction, the joint is going to move. Okay, so which means when the muscle is working, in other words, when there's an active movement, the proprioceptive feedback is going to be much higher compared to be when the child is just lying down. Okay, so when the child is in a stationary position, the joints are still going to work, but it's going to give very little information. And so the core essence of this is vestibular and proprioception go hand in hand, because if I have to stand up and move, I'm going to use my muscles, and then I'm going from point A to point B. So using muscles is proprioception, moving is vestibular. Okay, so they always work hand in hand most of the times, not always, most of the times they work hand in hand. But if I'm, for example, I'm just lifting a dumbbell and I'm doing with my elbows, okay, then the vestibular is not working. It's only the muscle, only one part of my body is working, not the entire body is working. So then it is not much of vestibular, it's more of proprioception. Okay, and if I look at pure vestibular without proprioception, then I would say like I am lying down on a swing. It's a big swing where I can lie down and somebody's pushing me. Like you get in beaches, right? You have the hammock tied to two trees and you are just lying down, and then somebody's pushing you, where you don't have to use your muscles to push your own swing and somebody else is pushing you. You don't have to balance yourself. Then it is more of vestibular, less of proprioception. Okay. If this distinction is clear, please type VP, vestibular proprioception. They go hand in hand. So a couple of things that we have to be aware of is that you don't get vestibular and proprioception when you're stationary. Okay, you get, but it's very, very less. So children typically have this tendency to move. Almost every typically developing child will move. They'll not be stationary. Okay, they will move because they need that sense. Only then they understand about the body. And for children with autism or hyperactivity, you will find them moving more because they may have some sensory issues. But movement is important. Yeah, thank you. So once we understand this, the functions of sensory systems would be sensory input necessary for brain functioning. As I was telling you, like just like your body has to function, you need to have food. The sensory input is the food for the brain. Okay, so as long as you get sensory input, the brain is active. It provides information about the environment. You understand if something is dangerous or something is pleasurable, and then it helps in regulation of alertness, which you have seen. It's a principal mode of learning, feedback and feed forward. Feedback is like I'm asking you to put it in the chat box, because typically when I do workshops, I can see people's faces. If they're yawning, it means like I'm boring, or if they're like laughing, or they're smiling, or they're looking at me or nodding their head. That is a feedback that I'm getting. Okay, but right now I don't get any feedback just sitting in front of my laptop. That's why I'm asking you to put it in the chat box. So that is a feedback that I'm getting. So what it does a feed forward. Okay, feed forward is what? Essentially speaking, feed forward means anticipation based on past experience. Anticipation based on past experience. Okay, for example, when I'm playing catch and throw with somebody, even before I throw my ball, the hands are ready to catch. Okay, that is an anticipation. Okay, so this anticipation comes because they have been doing catching for some time. So that anticipation itself tells us that they know what is going to happen, they are prepared for it, they are cooperating for it, right? So it's a principal mode of learning. So feedback and feed forward, you get only through the sensory inputs. It helps in body awareness and all these things are very important, because then we can look at what kind of, okay, so we need to maintain alertness, so we need to have some activities. We need to help them to learn, so we need to have some activities. Certain activities will improve body awareness. So all these things will help us to identify 4 types of activities. Okay, so there will be awareness activities, There would be tolerance activities. This is more for kids with autism who may have multiple issues, like even with children with deafblindness or multiple sensory issues, may have issues where they don't like haircut, nail cuts, right, brushing teeth. So that is where we talk about tolerance, or hypersensitive kids. Okay, and then we talk about discrimination activities, and which is a final is a higher level or refined use. I'm going to explain each of these activity now. So awareness activity, tolerance activity, discrimination activity, and the higher level or refined use. So when I talk about awareness activities, the child becomes aware of the presence of an input. So I should be able to give for example, a child who's not responding. So for whom do we give this? We're going to give this for those kids who are not responding to sensory inputs. Okay, so child should become aware of the presence of an input, and then we can look at what kind of awareness you respond looking at. The child is able to turn towards the source of sound, or the child, when the hands are dirty, the child wants to clean it, okay, or at least wipes it on his dress. Okay, that itself is a sign that the child is child is aware of it. Let me move on to the next one, which is the tolerance activities. So there will be certain type of activities which will help us to improve tolerance. Okay, for example, child is able to tolerate an experience that he or she considers to be unpleasant. Okay, so this is more I would like to focus on because many times we find that the child doesn't like brushing teeth, haircut, or things like that, which are essential for day-to-day activities. Okay, so we'll look at more into this. So, for example, it could be haircut or sound of a pressure cooker whistle. So these are certain things where the child is not able to tolerate. So how can we improve tolerance? The first thing is we have to establish routines. My second topic today is going to focus more on routines. So I'll discuss about that later. Always make sure that the child's arousal level is optimal. I have a quick question to you. We saw 3 levels of alertness: too high, just right, too low. In these 3 levels, in which level do you think the child will be more hypersensitive? Okay, you give an input, the child responds in an exaggerated manner. In which state of arousal do you think the child will be more sensitive? Is it too high, just right, or too low? You can put TH, JR, or TL in the chat box. Any guess? Yes, it's going to be too high. Yes, you're right, absolutely right. Yeah. So when you find that the child's arousal level is too high, he is going to be more sensitive. Okay. So we have to bring that arousal level down before you give a sensory input. So now we'll have to use calming input to bring the arousal down before you give the input which the child does not like. So make it predictable so that the child exactly knows when it's going to happen. All of us like predictability. All of us want the session to start at 10 o'clock or 10:20 and then end up at a fixed time. So when it is predictable, we know we are in control of the situation. We know we can plan our day. So the same applies to kids as well. So make it predictable. When I expect something, I know I don't like it, but I know it's going to happen and I have to do it. I am able to tolerate it much better. And always grade inputs. It should be step-by-step increment. It cannot be, the opposite of this is called flooding. Okay, for somebody who has a fear of cockroaches, putting 10 cockroaches on their body is called flooding. Okay, flooding. And the opposite of it, graded input, is I'm going to have a cockroach in my hand. You can just come and touch my other hand. That is a graded input. I'm going to gradually increase their access to the cockroach. Okay, something very similar to that. So that is a graded input. We do step by step. We should not flood a child with inputs, because that the child's arousal will increase and then the child will not respond. And it has to be a non-threatening exposure. I would like to emphasize on this. It has to be non-threatening. We cannot force somebody to tolerate a sensory input. It doesn't work that way, because the moment you force, you saw that the frustration and anger, it increases, the arousal level increases, then they don't develop tolerance. The arousal goes to too high, and in too high, you're more sensitive, right? So it doesn't work that way. It has to be a non-threatening exposure. So what do I mean by non-threatening is, let me try to give it in a subtle way where the child is not, child is not aware of it, too much of it. For example, it can be next to the child, the child doesn't have to touch it. and then the child gets used to the presence of it, and gradually you make it. For example, I'm talking about a particular texture, okay? Or many times I see therapists rubbing different textures on the child's hands, and the child is scared of it, doesn't like it. So there's no point in doing that. But instead of that, if I just have that texture around in a box and ask the child to pick up something else from the box, the child will take that texture, keep it aside, and then remove other things, right? So that's how I'm looking at it. It has to be a subtle way of exposure to the child, and the child himself learns to interact with that. And always involve the child in creating it. For example, a child doesn't like to hear sounds, okay? This child is sensitive to sound, so any honking, pressure cooker, any of these sounds the child doesn't like, it's always good to make the child create it, involve the child in the process, okay? For example, hitting drums or sound making toys. If it is pressure cooker, I would encourage the child to actually help in just be around when the mother is actually doing all the work, so the child can see what is happening, where the sound is going to come from. And after some time, child understand that it becomes more predictable, right? From the time the cooker has been set to the time the child, for 10 minutes from there, I'm going to hear a sound, okay? It becomes predictable, and child exactly knows this is what is happening. The child develops that tolerance. So the third kind of activities would be discrimination activities. So the ability to differentiate or discriminate varieties within the same system. For example, you talk about hard or soft, okay, it could be loud and whisper. So within the same system, that is discrimination, and there must be at least two objects or items to discriminate. So we are comparing at least two groups for discrimination. Let me move on to the next one, which is the higher level use. The higher level use would be the ability to use the sensory input in performing complex tasks. For example, I'm talking about brushing teeth or buttoning or like tying shoelaces. Okay, so these could be higher level tasks. Okay, this can happen only when I have that tolerance, when I have that attention, only then I'm able to do it. For example, identifying objects by touch. Typically, it's called stereognosis. Okay, for example, I put my hand in my pocket and take out a 5 rupee coin. Okay, I don't look at the coin, I just understand it by touch. That is the higher level use of a tactile system. So identifying similarities or differences between two pictures, like we talk about the what's missing game. In Tamil, we usually have this Vidya Sangal, right? There's a magazine which shows two pictures and you have to compare and identify what is missing in the other one. So those are higher level, that is visual, this first one is touch. So those things will all help us in improving the sensory activities. Now, this is the basis in which we have discussed so far. So how do we actually adapt this to the children with deaf blindness? Okay, that's what I'm going to discuss now. But before that, I just want to have a quick stop here and say, are we good to go? Please type GTG if you're good to go. And we'll just take for another 5 minutes and then we can end the session. Please show once again BF PPT. Okay, good to go. I didn't get to what is that BF PPT? Okay, we'll probably take that in the Q&A session. Okay, so how are we going to adapt this understanding? So we understand now that we have to move to get vestibular proprioception. We understand that our brain alertness is not constant. We understand that only when the arousal is just right, the child is going to respond to it. So we have to we understood that we have to use calming strategies when the child is over aroused, when we have to use alerting strategies when the child is dull and drowsy, and we have understood all of that. We understood the sensory systems, how they work, and now we are looking at what four kind of activities. We looked at awareness activities, tolerance activities, discrimination activities, and higher level activities. So we need to have understanding of all of this, and now we're looking at how are we going to adapt to children with deaf blindness. The first thing is always start with a signature to identify yourself to the child. So all of us should have our own signatures. So I typically have this bangle kind of thing in my hand, the kada, and what I do is whenever I touch a child with a visual impairment or deaf blindness, I always take their hands, touch my this kada, and then talk to them and say, I'm Karthik uncle. So there has to be some signature. Now, signature doesn't have to be any physical objects. It can also be your 2 taps on their hands, or it could be a blow in their hands. So it could be anything is fine. But again, because of COVID, we should not be doing the blowing now, right? So there can be different ways in which you have to identify yourself to the child, so that becomes your signature. So you will do this for any child with left blindness because that is a signature which is unique to you, and you will always do this before the first contact that you have with the child, so the child knows who he is interacting with. Okay, is that clear? Please type C for signature. Please type C if you're clear with the signature concept, because signature helps the child to understand. I'm sure this topic would have been discussed at some point of time, but just to reiterate, probably it's not just the special educator who does that, it's the therapist. It has to be the speech therapist or the OT or the physio. And then we use the hand over hand or hand under hand strategy to take the child to whatever activities you want the child to do, to pick up an object or do. And typically you start with hand under hand and then go to hand over hand. And then always use object cues based on the child's experiences. So which means I'm going to take the child on a swing. Okay, so which means I want the child to get onto the swing. So I should be using an object cue where the child is already there. He's already in his bed, he's already in his chair. I have to give the object cue in the place where the child already is, okay, in the chair, and then take him to the swing. And now when I use an object cue, this object cue has to be, it's a symbolic thing, and it has to be unique to a particular interaction. For example, if it is a swing, I should have a separate object cue for a swing, a separate object cue for a ball. Okay, and now when I look at the object cue, it should be something which the child can relate with, which means the child who's on a swing is going to hold the ropes of the swing. Okay, so if I cannot have a miniature swing and show it as an object cue, because the child may not be able to appreciate the relationship, but I should give a rope to the child which he can use as a object cue, so the moment he holds the rope, he understands, okay, I'm going to the swing now. Okay, so we always use the object cues based on the child's experience, not about how you see the world. We talk about sensory diet to maintain arousal throughout the day. That is the next topic. We'll discuss more in detail about sensory diet. And then we talk about the visual schedule or the calendar system. If it is deaf blindness, we use calendar system. If it is for children with autism, we use visual schedule. The concept is same. The way it is implemented is going to be different because depending on the child's sensory abilities. So, but the objective is the child should know what is going to happen next. Okay, that is the main thing. And I always believe that visual schedule or the calendar system is the way to make the child independent later in life. Okay, most of the times we spend so much time teaching a particular skill, how to do this, how to do that, but we don't teach them the context. We don't teach them when they have to do it. Okay, so in that context, if we don't teach the context, the child may have the skills but will not express it because he doesn't know when it has to be done. Okay, for example, I typically tell the parents that the child has the answers, but he does not know the question. So when you ask the question, he will not give you the answer. But if you start with the first word, he will give my name is, so he'll start my name is Karthik. Yeah, so he will always give you the answer, but when you ask him what is your name, he will not respond because he doesn't know the question, right? So that's what happens with most of the times, that when you start teaching a skill, we are so much engrossed with the skill that we don't teach them the context. So context is what you get through the calendar system. The child knows exactly when am I supposed to do this. Always have a tactile boundary, a boundary where the child can see that this is my space. Okay, for example, right now when I'm sitting on a table and using the laptop, the table is my space. So table has a boundary. So now this becomes my personal space. Okay, so similarly for a child with deaf blindness, they should be able to feel where they are. So always make them sit on a chair or on a mat. Okay, so it has to have or doormat, it could be a bed, it could be a cot, but they should always be able to feel the boundaries, so that will improve their sense of comfort. The activities should be consistent in a sequence, okay, which means activity 1, activity 2, activity 3, they should always be in the same sequence. The sequence should not change. Okay, by this you're making it more predictable, and once you make things predictable, the child starts cooperating. Once the child starts cooperating, the child starts learning. So the activities has to be sequential, and the environment has to be predictable. Okay, which means I cannot rearrange the furniture, I cannot take the child in a different room every day. Okay, so it has to be the same place, same area. So the environment has to be predictable. And during a session, whenever you interact with the child, once you have identified yourself with a signature, till the time you say bye bye and you use the signature again to say bye, then till that time you should always have one hand on the child. Okay, so have one contact with the child throughout the session. So if you're taking something, always take with the other hand, not with both hands together. Or if the parent is around, you can ask them to take it, or you can always ask them to hold the child, touch the child. When you have to go and take it up. Always make sure there's some touch throughout the session, throughout the interaction, so the child is not caught unaware, like somebody's touching me. Imagine yourself being in a dark room and somebody's touching you on and off, and you don't understand why are they touching you. So it becomes very difficult for the child to reach a level of comfort, and then they have to and that increases the arousal level, right? So everything has an interplay with each other, and it's important that we have to maintain a constant touch throughout the session. Okay, so with this, I would like to end this first session. If you have any quick questions, I can answer that. Any questions? I think we're running late. We've started a bit late as well. Any questions?
Participants, if you have any questions, you can please feel free to ask, sir.
Discrimination, sir. Discrimination.
Yes.
About that. Hard and soft.
Yes. So what is your question? How to discriminate, is it?
So I did not hear it, sir. Yeah.
You did not? Sorry. So if your question is like how to discriminate.
Understood that discrimination.
So discrimination is you use a sensory system to differentiate between two qualities of an object, right?
How to
Sorry. Please repeat. I'm not able to get
so
it.
It is hard and soft. I have discriminate first. It is hard or it is soft, like that.
Yes, I mean every sensory system.
How to discriminate the object?
Yeah, every sensory system will have its own discrimination. For touch, it could be hard or soft. It could be rough or smooth. It is like spiky or cushiony, right? So these are all touch based. If it is vision, it is dark or light, it is or bright or dull. It could be like color is a discrimination, shape is a discrimination if it's a visual. Okay, so shape can also be tactile as well. So there are a lot of things that you can look at. So every sensory system will have its discrimination. When it is proprioception, it is too much force or too little force. How delicate it has to be. When it is auditory, it is loud or a whisper. So all these things are discrimination. So your sensory systems actually go from one level to another. The first thing is I always become aware of a stimulus. Then I discriminate: is it harmful for me or not? Is it something required for me or not required? And then based on that, you decide whether you have to interact with it or not. And then you go to the next level, which is a refined level. So you always have 4 levels of activities. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so shall we move on to the next? If you don't have any questions, please type NQ so that we can go to the next discussion. Okay, good. Right, okay, so thank you. I hope the first session was good and helpful. And let's move on to the next topic. Right, so we have now we are going to discuss about sensory diet. So now whatever we have discussed in the first session, we have to keep that in mind because a lot of that will have an implication here as well, right? So we'll understand what is sensory diet, and then are you all able to see my screen on sensory diet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So sensory diet is defined as a planned and scheduled activity program designed to meet a child's specific sensory needs. So people typically associate sensory diet with something to eat with food. Okay, it's nothing to do with food. It's just a fancy term given to a structured home program. Okay, so that is a sensory diet. The term coined by Patricia Wilbarger in 1972, and sensory diet is not related to eating. It is a common misconception. So we're looking at a structured home program, and as I had mentioned earlier, we have to customize it according to the child's needs. So how do I compare with this? So like sensory diet, as I said, food is important for the body. Sensory input is important for the brain. Okay, so similar to that. So when you have nutritional diet which addresses metabolic needs, we have sensory home program which addresses the sensory needs. And just like you have meals, you have heavy work, okay, and then when you have snacks, we talk about fidgeting. We have some smaller things to press, or we find pleasure in doing some little things. Sometimes you have that package with air bubbles, right, and then you type to pop it, right? So those are fidgeting kind of things which we like to do. And then it's always expressed as a behavior. As you can see, if the child's arousal is high or low, you can always see that in terms of the behavior. So sensory diet or structured home program helps us to attain and maintain an optimal arousal state. So as you saw, out of the 3 levels, which is the best level to have? Too high, just right, or too low? Which is the best level to have? Can you just put it in the chat box? Too high, JR, TH, JR, or TL? Which is the best level to have for learning? Can I put it in the chat box? JR? Others? Yeah, so just right, correct. So which means that it is important for us to maintain the child's level of arousal in the just right level throughout the day. So now we already discussed in the previous presentation that this can be done by using calming or alerting sensory inputs. Now we are going to use that strategy to maintain. So whenever child's arousal level goes down, we use alerting inputs. When it goes too high, we use calming inputs. Bring it to the midline or the arousal just right level, and always then teach. So which means we should always look at some breaks, frequent movement breaks, which are important, because I also said you don't get much of vestibular and proprioception when you are in a stationary position. So we have to get a lot more of physical activity. So we have to have physical frequent movement breaks. It produces a consistent change in sensory processing capacities, and it can be incorporated in all aspects of daily life and within any setting. You can do it in home, you can do it in the school, you can do it even in the park. You can have some activities designed for the park. You don't have swing at home, take the child to the park. You can give a lot more vestibular activities in the park. It is ideal as a structure for home program, and it's a powerful adjunct to school, work, or early intervention program. So whatever is being done by the therapist, it's a powerful adjunct and can help us to modify atypical behavior. Okay, we don't use the word abnormal, normal or abnormal. We use typical or atypical. So how do we plan a sensory diet? The first thing obviously is a consultation, which understand the concerns of a client, includes the parent as well as the child. And then what are the functional implications? How is it affecting the child? And then the most important thing would be information to the parents, what activities you're going to do, why we have chosen this, when we have to give this, and parent participation is going to be the key in a sensory diet because it's a home program. So we look at different aspects. How does the child respond to a stimulus? Does he respond to name call? What is the child's arousal or activity level? What is the child's past history? Because some children, I've been in the past when I worked with kids, like I've seen many kids some kids are very scared of beanbags, some kids are very scared of swings, right? So everything will have a impact on what you're planning to do. sensory qualities encountered in 2 typical days must be considered. So when you identify, okay, I have identified that this child has a proprioceptive deficit. He needs more proprioception. Okay, and so I'm looking at the child's experiences in 2 typical days. Okay, like how does he, when does he wake up, when does he go to school, or what kind of physical activity is getting. So I'm going to look at all the qualities that is already experiencing on 2 typical days. When I say 2 typical days, which means like most of the times I'm not going to include the weekend. Okay, I'm looking at the weekday, and then I see, okay, this he's missing proprioception in this. We can add more proprioceptive activity. For example, he should carry his own school bag. Okay, if I want to increase vestibular, he should be going in a lift. Okay, if I want to improve proprioception, he should not use the lift, he should use the staircase, right? So we always try to look at what are the sensory qualities the child is encountering and how can we modify it within the settings, not giving too much of a burden to the parent. It has to be specific time-oriented routines. So all things have to be structured, and it will help us in self-direction. And we should also consider leisure activities like ball games. It could be going to the beach. Okay, so all those things should also be considered in the activity plan. So let me give a few examples of how you can modify it. For example, deep touch, we use blankets. Okay, so that will help the child to calm down. That will reduce his hyperactivity. Obviously, we're looking at a situation where the child sleeps in an air-conditioned room or in a winter season. So this will be one example. If you're looking at self-care, if the child likes a lot of tactile input, we can encourage splashing waters while going for a bath. Spend some time playing in the bathroom with water. Obviously, in a place where you can afford to do that with the water scarcity and all those things around. And then dressing, the child has to climb and pick his own dress. You should purposely keep only one dress, keep other shelves empty. Okay, keep one dress on the top shelf. Every time he has to after bath, he has to climb up on the shelf, and then he has to pick up the dress. And then if you're using feeding, we want more oromotor. Some kids are always putting objects in the mouth. Then we have to look at how can I make it more, increase the feedback from the mouth. So I can give more chewy foods. I can make half-baked carrots, okay, or apples, without actually baking it fully, without boiling it fully, so that you maintain some amount of texture in that. That will increase the muscle work in the mouth. Okay, so chewy foods, use of straw for liquids. You can make the liquid a bit thicker. You can use more Horlicks powder or something which will make the thing more thicker, or use milk. Always drink with a straw. Don't drink directly from the glass. So all these things will increase your proprioceptive input from the oral musculature. So all these things we can include in our daily routine itself. Other activities that can be done is when a child is sitting watching TV, instead of sitting on a sofa, lying on the floor, make the child sit on a gym ball. Okay, so child has to sit on a dynamic base when watching TV. So child is going to naturally bounce and move up and down. So when the child does that, the child gets more vestibular and proprioception. Weighted jackets can be used during academic or desktop activities like doing puzzles or writing. Gardening can be used for child with touch hypersensitivity, and everything, as I said, like we have to grade it, but the child will eventually get there. The child likes what he is doing, he will be able to overcome the hypersensitivity. Jumping on a trampoline for child with vestibular seeking, so that could be done. That will also add on. So one thing which I would not always recommend is jumping on the bed, okay, on the cot. Okay, so that is something that I will not recommend. But jumping on the trampoline, if the parent cannot afford a trampoline, then we can always put a separate bed only for jumping on the floor in a corner of the room, and ask child that this is your jumping space and this is where you can do it. Okay, so that it acts like a trampoline and you can use that. Avoid a lift or elevators if the child needs more proprioception, and pushing the trolley in a supermarket for a child with poor shoulder stability or proprioceptive issues. You can also do a lot of animal walks like bunny hop, frog jump, crab walk. Okay, so dinosaur walk, planning of their own body. So, and especially for the kids with poor motor planning, that would be a good one to have. And target throw on drums. So when the child is throwing on a drum and it makes a sound, the child will be able to tolerate it much better than somebody else doing it for the child. So these are some examples that you can do on a daily basis without breaking much of a sweat. The sensory diet cannot replace professional help. At the time, one day or twice a week is not going to be enough for the child. So this is going to address the sensory needs throughout the day. And then it enables the child to participate more fully in activities that comprise his or we're not actually trying to add new activities, but whatever activities the child is already doing, make this modification so that you add more sensory spice to that. And it serves as a useful adjunct, providing a career therapy center or a special school in the OT session, and then I do the activity of training. Is it clear? Any quick questions on sensory diet? You can type GTG if you're good to go. Yeah, thank you. So let's look at some classroom strategies in terms of the sensory environment that can be done. So the classroom should always be designed in such a way that the child is able to fully participate in the activities. So first thing is we have to reduce stimulus in the classroom. As you can see in the space, children typically up, but this may not be a good clothing, not bright colors like this. Our hanging objects from the ceiling, you don't want them to be moving around and it will become a potential source of distraction to the chatbot. Then they should not be next to it. Okay, all posters, all child-related activities which you want to display should be behind the children on the wall opposite to the blackboard. Mutual decorations for notice board, not flashy colors or glittering colors. So, excuse me. The child's desk not cluttered so that the child is not distracted. And what you should always provide storage space for placing their books or notebooks. So we should have, which means that they should not be placing it on the aisle space, which is used for walking between the two children. Okay, between two desks, so that children have the problem of tripping and falling over. So it's organized. Okay, so what's it, what a textbook or coloring, then the child has to replace it in the bag before taking something out of the bag, okay, or taking something from the shelf. If you do not use much of a child doesn't bring much of books from the bag, from the school, from home in a bag, then you should always provide a storage space in the classroom which has cupboards, which has clear listing the child's names and all of that, so that the child can take it from there, use it, replace it, and then take the other one, so that the desk is not cluttered. It should always be labeled with pictures of the child. As the child cannot read, he can actually identify himself with pictures. And you should also provide a calming space for the child in the setup. It could be a low cost, like just a table, and you can have a blanket on top of a table, asking child to go under the table and relax. Or it could be something like this, which is actually a carton, like a washing machine carton, and creating a space for the child to go inside and rest in a bean bag. And then it's a space where the child can calm down, and nobody enters that space without the child's permission. The child can also have a separate desk to do independent work. The classroom may have, I'm talking about a typical classroom in a mainstream school, the classroom may have benches for all kids who work together. At the same time, at times when a child wants to sit alone and work, he should also have a separate space to do independent work. a space with like a covered table, a bean bag, or a rocking chair can be used for a child to calm down. Allow the child to listen to music with headphone, because if the child is auditory seeking, we see many children singing or humming or making some strange noises which can be distracting for others, and this child may need auditory inputs, and so some soothing music, or it could also be educational instructions can be given to the child with the headphone. Organize materials, as I was telling you, like if you're using a shelf, then always make sure that you have everything been labeled, and always cover shelves. Don't keep it open. It should always be covered because they are potential sources of distraction. Keep them closed at all times. Lighting should not be intense or flickering. So your tube lights and all those things should not be flickering. Disturbing sounds in the classroom, like if it is an air conditioner or the sound from the fan, it should be dealt with immediately. And always label plates, materials with pictures. Not just words may not be enough, you should also have pictures related to that. When we look at seating, we look at optimum location for students with attention issues. So if you can look at this, there's a lecturer, and then we have so many students here, right? And what you'll find is that the person with orange head is likely to be easily distracted. Okay, because there are so many people in front of him. So if you want to address this child in a mainstream school or a school, then it's important for us that we provide a space for the child near the teacher. Okay, not so far away. And then when you look at the doors and windows, the child should not be sitting next to the doors and windows, because then he will start looking outside, who's passing by and what is happening outside. Identify traffic areas in the classroom. So if you can look at this, the traffic areas would be any place which is closer to the door where the child, somebody enters and then has to pass to the aisle space. That is the traffic area, and any space near the teacher is a traffic area. So these areas, the child should not be seated, because there are many chances that children will pass through those spaces, and children being children, they will not just pass with their hands tied. They'll always try to pull someone's hair. They'll try to do something with their legs, right? So they'll always try to engage with each other, and that could be a distraction for a child with attention issues. So cover lower part of windows to reduce distraction, or you can also have a screen which is more stable. And everything that has to be displayed, like timetable, picture-based, and all of things, should be the timetable should not be displayed next to the board. It should be behind the child, and it should be picture-based. And strict adherence to the schedule is very important. Whenever there's a change in schedule, change in teacher, it must be informed at least at the beginning of the day, not exactly at that point of time. And there should be always a notice period for change. What do you mean by notice period? The child should know that this teacher has not come today, and somebody else will be coming in their place. The child needs some time to get used to prepare themselves for that. Okay, it should not come as a surprise to the child. So you should always make it. So you can have a routine, like in the morning, somebody can say like what are the sessions they have, or all the teachers can just come and say hi and then go back, and so the child knows these are people who are going to come today. We can always create our own thing which are practical and which can be done on a sustainable basis. So we should always have rules and routines. Classroom rules are posted in positive terms. Okay, so we should have rules so that it becomes easy for a child to understand and follow. Many times we find that the child does not understand unwritten rules. Okay, for example, when I talk about manners, somebody is talking on phone and the child goes and talks to them. So they should understand that they should wait for them to finish their call. Now that is something, this is an unwritten rule. So we should always have a written rule. We should always make sure that it is explicit, so a child understands in this situation I have to do this. Okay, establish a routine for entering and leaving the room, like going in a line, hands and tying hands to the back. There should be routine for recess as well as for lunch activities if the child is going to have lunch in another room. Rules should be mentioned in the restroom as well. So all these things are very important, that they have to flush the water and they should wash their hands. So all these things should be mentioned. So there should be rules for every place. Minimize disturbances in the classroom. Children do not go from one room to another during the day, like music room, that room, potty room, or it could be as much as possible. Group movement should be avoided. People do not walk into the room without notice. Okay, so nobody should be just coming in and popping and say hi to the teacher. That should not be allowed. No ad hoc visitors, because being special schools, we typically see a lot of visitors coming to special schools, some nice hearted people, but we should also be aware of the child's needs, because we cannot afford to. What typically happens is, in a typically developing child, if they get distracted, they're able to return to the activity in a quick span of time. Whereas a child with special needs, they find it very difficult. So once they're distracted, they do not come back to the same activity. So minimize assemblies, okay, like the Monday morning assemblies or Friday assemblies. So those kind of things can be avoided. Field trips or events can be minimized as much as possible, not to have it on a very regular basis. And no public address announcement like speakers inside the classrooms. We used to have that in our school when I was a student. In my school where I did my +1 and +2, we used to have public address announcement into the classroom. So we have prayers in the classroom, but it was quite distracting as well. So no PA announcement, and if it is required, you should have a very specific routine. That before the announcement, there will be, just like your in railway platforms, right? You have a notification on ding ding ding, and then they talk about the announcement, like this train is going to come on this platform. Okay, we'll always give you a notice, and then they will do that. Okay, so that notice period has to be a bit bigger, and it has to be predictable, so that they know exactly at this point of time, either in the morning or in the evening, I'm going to have some announcements. You can also look at some hotspots where you can find like common areas, like play area, where children do not maintain distance, they push each other. So we should probably have outline boundaries for circle time or for activities for group sessions. Mark space with tape while standing in queue. Like sometimes we see in the banks. So we need to have lines or visual boundaries. Ensure corridors are not crowded, so we can always, which means like the first class will go at 9 o'clock, and the next classroom will go at 9:05. The next classroom will go at 9:10. Corridor is not much crowded. So all these things can be done in a classroom situation for a child with sensory needs. Any quick questions, or again, is it all clear? Please type C in the chat box if it's all clear. Thank you. Now let us look at some home activities. Now we have already discussed about the sensory calming inputs, alerting inputs. We discussed about sensory systems. So you will have a fair idea of activities that needs to be done. And because of paucity of time, I've not gone into the details, because you'll find all these details on the Google. You can just type vestibular activities, you'll have all the list. Your tactile activities, you'll also have all the list. So my aim is always to make sure that you understand when these activities have to be given, how it has to be given, rather than what to give. Okay, because what to give is totally subjective to the child. So first thing is routines. The routines would be the most important thing for children with deaf blindness. I would say this would be the basic of any intervention, and this also applies to children who have a very severe intellectual disability. Okay, so routines are very important. So routine is this is how it's going to be. Like, I know it's at this time 9 o'clock there's a mega serial which ends at 9:30. Okay, I know it every day, and I have it. I have food, and then I watch it. Right, so it will be some kind of a routine that we are always involved in. So what is the advantage of routine is that it makes things predictable. So once things are predictable, I know exactly what is going to happen. You expect cooperation, and then you see child starts doing it on his own. Okay, so what is a routine? A routine is a combination of fixed time, fixed place, fixed activity. Let me repeat. It's a combination of fixed time, fixed place, and fixed activity. So what do I mean by that? Brushing should be done only in the morning and night. Okay, in the wash basin. Okay, that is the place, is the wash basin, and in the living room, that is the place, and the time is in the morning as soon as you get up. What is the activity? It is brushing teeth. Now this is a combination. You should not do one day on the wash basin, on the living room, and one day in the bathroom. That is not allowed. Okay, always sleeping should be in the bed. So that's why I was telling you, like, you should not encourage children to jump on the cot, because at 11 p.m. in the night, when you want to go, the parent wants to go to the bed and sleep, the child wants to jump. Conflict can be avoided just by following a routine. So having activities a combo, when we have a fixed routine, it becomes easy for everyone to understand. When you go to the library, you know exactly how you have to behave. You know there'll be books somewhere, you are not supposed to make sounds. You take a book, place it, keep it on sit, find yourself a table, sit and read that, replace the books in a cover, in a carton or in some other place, and that's how you do it, right? So when you go to a movie, you know how to respond. When you go to a theme park, you know how to respond. When you go to a wedding, you know how to respond. So all these things becomes a routine over a period of time. You know, the child knows exactly what needs to be done. So the child may still not know why, but the child knows what has to be done. So difficult concepts such as privacy can be taught through routines. Okay, how do I teach the child that you should not go without dress? Okay, you should not be naked in front of strangers. Okay, very simple thing. Always, right from the age of 2, I would suggest, anytime the child is changing clothes, anytime child is taken for a bath, or somebody is cleaning the child after toileting activities, it should always happen behind closed doors. Okay, so close the bedroom door and then change the dress, and then wrap the child with a towel, take the child to the bathroom, close the door, and then undress the child, and then give him a bath, wrap the child with a towel, and then come back to the bedroom. So always these things should happen in closed doors. And as the child grows older, you tell the child, close the door, we'll do this. Okay, so the child naturally understands that, okay, I have to first close the door and then I have to undress. Okay, and that way, and also important, I say parents that only the father or the mother should be involved in bathing the child, especially a girl child, I would say more so, but applies equally to both the genders. Only the parent, only the father or the mother should bathe the child. Only they should clean the child after toileting activities, not uncles and aunties, not grandpa and grandma. Because then what happens is the child gets used to them. The child will not allow anybody else to do. Okay, so that is the biggest trend that you get, right? So once a child gets used to a routine, they don't want to change it. Okay, and I would say this is important for kids who have a low intellectual disability, because then it's difficult for us to teach them who is good, who is bad, and we cannot teach them all the concepts, but we can always make sure the child is safe. So it's always safe to err on the, better to err on the safer side. So some do's and don'ts that I would like to add on would be all self-care activities should be repeated twice a day, like brushing twice a day, morning and night, bathing twice a day, morning and evening, and you are going to have meals 3 times a day. So what it does is, when you have a repetition, it gives more opportunity for the child to practice it. Okay, so all self-care activities twice a day will help in learning it faster, and always involve the child in the process. I've already explained about non-threatening exposure. Then the next thing would be smart choice. So what is a smart choice? The smart choice is always like when you ask a child, do you want to eat or not? Or do you want to eat, drink milk or not? Okay, when you say yes or no options, then what happens is the child chooses no, then we are in a dilemma. Okay, because if the child says no to a milk or to a food, we cannot let it go, right? We still have to feed the child. And so what happens is, now because the child has already exhausted the option of saying no, and we have not given due respect to the child's opinions, then what happens is the child now goes into a behavioral issue. Like the child may throw a tantrum because he's already exhausted the option of a socially responsible, acceptable response. So instead of asking a child yes or no questions, always go for a smart choice. Okay, so what it is like, do you want to drink milk before this or after this? Okay, if you want to ask the child, like, do you want to brush teeth, you should not ask like, shall we go and brush teeth now? What if the child says no? Okay, so we'll say, okay, do you want to brush your teeth with the red brush or the blue brush? Okay, so always give a smart choice, so that the child understands. You don't give no as an option. You give only an option between 2 things where it is understood that you have to do it. So that would be a smart choice. And then you can always simplify concepts. For example, you can say waiting equals counting. So I teach child count 1 to 10, and then I give him something. Okay, so it becomes easier for the child to understand. Okay, now what is waiting? The child should stand on a doormat. He has to count 1 to 10, and then he will get it. Okay, so I'm trying to simplify the concept. The child has difficulty understanding the waiting. And then we talked about visual schedule. Visual schedule, I would say, I cannot repeat or I cannot to emphasize it too much, in the sense visual schedule is the way forward to make the child independent. Whatever skills we develop is not going to be helpful for a child to develop independent living skills unless the child knows when to use them. The child should know, after brushing my teeth, I have to go and have my milk. After milk, I go to the restroom to toileting activity. After that, I'm going to have bathing. After that, I'm going to dress myself up. I have to go to have my breakfast. I have to go to school. The child should know the schedule. The child should know the sequence of events. It's not just enough for the child to know or do a particular skill. Right. So with this, I end this session so that we can have interaction. I can answer a few questions. Yeah. So, any questions?
Thank you, sir. It was a very nice presentation. I hope all the participants have understood very well. Sir has explained very clearly all the points. And it was a very interactive session too. And if you have any doubts, please come forward. You have time for questions now.
Yeah, we have 15 minutes. Please unmute yourself and you can ask a question.
Thank you.
If you don't have any questions, please type NQ in the chat box. You can also give a quick feedback. How was the session? Was it good? My only question is, did you learn something new today? Yes, no, maybe. Yeah, I have shared the PPT with the organizers. They will be sharing with all the participants, I guess.
Yes, sir. I'll be sharing it. The next week, I'll share all the PPTs.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the feedback. Yes, if you don't have any questions, we can wind up the session.
Yes, sir. Participants,
yeah.
So you don't have any questions? So they have mentioned, can you show any video?
Yeah, video regarding... I can probably add a link here because I saw one. I wanted to discuss about this calendar system. Are we discussing about calendar system in this today's program?
Yesterday they have mentioned, sir, while the session during teaching learning materials as well as in teaching strategies, DC ma'am had mentioned. And
okay.
Good grammar.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll put it in the chat box. This is about a calendar system. I may have some issues if I play it on...
But if you want to write essays...
Yeah, so... Yeah, I think I may have some issues on this. On classroom strategies, I don't have offhand, but I'll probably have a look at it and I'll share with the organizers. Thank you, Mrs. Jigna. Nice to meet you. Yeah, the calendar system is actually it's a big process, okay, which means like it takes we have to do a lot of homework in terms of what activities we want the child to learn. So it's difficult. It will be a session in itself. Okay, I usually take around 3 hours on calendar system, on visual schedule, especially how to plan on it and how to go step by step. So it takes a lot of time. But to give you a brief intro about calendar system, is what typically we find is whenever we engage a child in any activity, you will always see that many times children are very cooperative, they do everything. But the moment we leave them, we are busy with our own work, then they are there, they drift into their own world, they do not interact, or they watch TV or do something like that, which is a non-productive behavior. Many times you also see a lot of behavior issues in them. Okay, and the calendar system is a way in which we can teach them what is next. Once they understand that after finishing this activity, I'm not free, I have to do something else, they naturally become more responsive and more responsible and more mature. Okay, and I always say that all the experts tell parents of children with autism or children with special needs that you should engage the child throughout the day, and it is not practically possible. All of us know that nobody can engage somebody else 24/7, right? So what the solution is not in teaching or in engaging the child throughout the day. The solution is in teaching the child how to engage themselves meaningfully throughout the day. Okay, and that is what the calendar system does. So once we have a schedule, then it becomes easy. And when typically they talk about visual schedule, I always emphasize on visual interactive schedule. Okay, it's not just enough that it has to be visual, it has to be interactive, because if it is not interactive, children, we are not actually paying attention to that. Okay, sometimes what happens is there may be a shop in your neighborhood which you have never noticed, but unless you wanted that, for example, these are shops where you don't go on a daily basis. It could be a revenue stamp, it could be somebody like a sticker shop, okay, for a vehicle, right, and or some welding shop, right? So those kind of shops where you don't go on a daily basis. But when you had been searching for this shop and somebody told you, you went 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer ahead, and then they redirected you very close to your house, and then suddenly you realize that this is so close to my house, and how come I didn't know about it? Because it is not interactive. Okay, so if it is not interactive, children will not take notice of it, so it has to become interactive. So this is a very brief about the calendar system. Mrs. Shanta Kumari, I hope I answered your query. Any other questions?
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay then, so thank you all. Thanks for your patient listening, and it was nice meeting you all. And thank you once again. I would like to thank the organizers, the director of SPASTN, and all the staff of SPASTN for inviting me. And it's always special. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your valuable time, sir. I know you have a very busy schedule, but still when I called you, you didn't hesitate to accept the invite. You immediately accepted, and we are very happy to have you here, sir. And
You're welcome.
I actually attended your 5-day workshop, and it was really very useful for me. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye. So I believe the session was very useful to you all. Afternoon again, we'll break for lunch now. So the session will be around 1 o'clock. So please join by 1 o'clock. The resource person will be starting the session by 1:10. So I request you all to join by 1 o'clock.
One can't hear properly.
Sorry, somebody has unmuted. An afternoon session will also be an interactive session, so kindly cooperate with the resource person. And somebody is finding difficult to join into the link, because I had 2 or 3 people, I received messages that they were not able to log into the meet. Anyone please? Did you find difficult in joining?
No, ma'am.
Then that might be some technical issue. If you find difficult to join, you can also watch in the YouTube. I will share the post test link for day 2 in the evening, And those who did not submit yesterday, kindly work it on and submit it to me by today. Yesterday's post test. Okay.
Afternoon session, what time, ma'am?
Afternoon session will start by 1:10. So I request all the participants to be by 1 o'clock here. Sharp.
Okay.
Okay? Yes. Thank you all. You can break for lunch now. சார் ஜாயின் பண்ணிட்டீங்களா நீங்க? பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கீங்களா? அவங்க வந்துட்டாங்க 1:10 மத்தியானம். Andrea, ma'am?
Yeah,
Yeah, shall we start?
yeah, we could.
Yeah, others, let them join. So we'll
Sure.
start. Yeah. Maybe one or two they might be watching even in YouTube also. So we'll join, let them, we'll start, let
No
them join.
problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. So I welcome you all to the afternoon session. Participants, kindly mute your audio and video when you're not speaking. And this would be an interactive session. So whenever the resource person is interacting with you, please feel free to interact with her. Come forward and you can interact with the resource person. So this session is on movement therapy. So um, let me give a short introduction about our resource person, uh, Miss Andrea Jacob. She is a movement specialist, performing artist, creative director, and trustee of Living Earth Trust, Chennai. She is the founder of the Kind Capsule Project. She transcends her language of movement across all ages from 6 months to 95-year-olds. So she has worked with people in prisons, juvenile homes, educational institutions, inclusive spaces like old age homes, orphanages, corporate entities, animal spaces are her areas of focus across the globe. And she has got a global and local experience of 22 years in this field. So I warmly welcome Ms. Andrea Jacob to
Thank you.
our 3-day RCI CRE Southern Regional webinar. So we have participants from all the 5 states here. So a warm welcome to you, ma'am, and we thank you for accepting our invite and putting so much of effort in taking this session today. Now over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Is Mahesh here to help with the slide?
Yes,
Sanam?
ma'am. Yes.
Okay, all right. So before I begin, if you would like, any of you, if you'd like to keep your camera on, it's also good. If you don't want to keep your camera on, you can keep it off, your choice. It's very important that we see each other, because especially if you're going to be working with the deaf community, then it's very important to have a good view. At the same time, when you're working with the blind community, it's very important that we are clear with our instruction. So that's why I'm going a little bit slower in my speech, so that you can see me and read my lips, so that you have to imagine and internalize that with whoever we are meeting, we have to be on the same wavelength and feel the same things that they are feeling. So in movement therapy, it's even more close and intimate. For example, today, you are all my family today. I see you as a family member whom I want to trust. And only then, if I can establish that trust, only then I can express my entire self today, which is a little bit of how you can take it forward in your session. In movement therapy, the very simple thing about creative movement and movement therapy is that it's within our bodies and it's there. It's always there for us to use. And it's within the four walls of our space, from our own home to, from your own kitchen. You can use so many things. Today, I'm going to show you 5 activities that we could use so that you can take it forward. I'm only showing you an example, but you can be creative in your own way. So how do we begin for a session for movement therapy? Number 1 rule, no judgments. Absolutely no judgments when you enter your session. You have to go in feeling free, and you have to go in with a lot of content, but not with judgments. Because when you enter the room, enter to empty yourself and not judge, any of the participants who are there in your session. So that's my number 1 golden rule, which I'm sharing with each and every one of you, and I hope you can take it forward. Number 2, it's very important for you to write down your format for your class. I'm going to share my format of how it works for me, because that's how I was able to create content and modules. I'm now creating modules on kindness in a lot of spaces, only based on what I have worked with classes with the inclusive community, and the deaf and blind being, one of 2 of the aspects. So it's very important to write down every step of your class. If you say 40 minutes, so write down how your 40-minute session is going to take place. So write down your format. It helps you to think and, achieve clearly. Number 3, can we have the opening slide, Mahesh? Can you please play the opening slide, the first slide? So number 3, it's very important for us when you are working on a movement session that you try as much to take risk. Risk is very important. Only then you are creative. And especially in this sector, I want you all to reinvent the sense of feel. Today, we are going to reinvent it in 5 different ways, the sense of feel, because the sense of feel is the common sense for both the deaf and the blind community. It's the commonality that they can actually use and feel it, and it's something that for all of us to reconnect. It's like we're going back to being babies, and that's the best thing, the best gift you can give each one of you, even as a gift to reinvent for yourself. So my suggestion is reinvent the sense of feel. How do you feel things? For example, how are you feeling right now? You've actually had it's been a whole couple of days of, webinar meeting so many people and embracing so much of information going into your body. So how do you feel right now? Yeah. So that's the important sense. Learn to adapt the sense of feel. And finally, explore. Have fun in the session. When you're having fun, the participants have fun too. So let's get started with the very first. Mahesh, can you please share the first slide, please? Mahesh, are you there? Okay. So let me.
Yeah, he's there. He says he has played, but it's not visible. Let me check.
I can't see the slide.
Yeah, even I'm not able to.
Yeah, that's why I was asking.
Wait, let me ask. I'll ask him to play.
Okay, while Mahesh is playing the slide, I want to explain about the slide we're going to show you. So it is about how to begin your class. There's a 3 format: beginning, middle, and end. So this is a very simplistic format, but most effective. If you can apply a beginning, middle, and end in your session, then you will actually enjoy the way you see this format. So we will start with the beginning. The beginning part is about how to start your class with a warm-up, because in movement, it's all about warming up the muscles in the body. And so it's very important to do this, because when you are warming up your muscles, you can do it with me when I'm starting right now. When you're warming up the muscles in your body, okay, he will play in 5 minutes. All right, thank you. So when you are warming up the muscles in your body like this, so I'm going to start with a simple massage, and you can do it too, if you, so if you can just warm up the muscles in your body. By doing this, you are gently preparing yourself for the session, and you're gently preparing even, Mahesh is sharing screen. All right, that's our first visual. Mahesh, can we go to the second visual, Mahesh? Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. A warm-up massage is where we are at, the beginning part. So when you're warming up your body by doing a little warm massage, and what I'm doing is I'm starting from my shoulder blade and I'm going all the way to my fingertips. Why am I doing that is I'm sending out all the tired energy from our body, whether it was, you woke up with a bad alignment, or you had some other stress, or you did not sleep properly. This helps to actually prepare us for the session. Not just you, but your participants too. And it gives you all a certain amount of an inner calm, just to calm down and get ready. This is the first thing you do by having a little bit of a warming up by massaging yourself. Yeah. Another important thing to do in the beginning part of your class is how do you arrange your participants? In movement therapy, it always works to arrange them in a semicircle. Why semicircle is you can have your visual of your entire participants stay in a semicircle. So arrange your participants in a semicircle when you are meeting them physically. I call it the semicircle, sacred circle of trust. That means we get to share the semicircle information in a semicircle. So arrange your participants in a semicircle. That's, the golden rule when you are starting the warm-up massage. Let's do the warm-up massage even on our face. Because you are instructing, you need to warm up the muscles on your face. And by doing so, you are preparing yourself mentally also. You are preparing yourself mentally and saying, I'm going to focus on my class and give my best to my class. So by warming up the muscles on our face, and what I do is I tell the participants, this is a good way to tell the participants. I tell them, if you don't want wrinkles, warm up the face muscles, because then it prevents you, because you're stretching your skin and it prevents you from having wrinkles. But actually what it does is by doing this, you can do it with me. Like a tiger, like a squirrel. Like a tiger, like a squirrel. Now in this warm-up massage, it's actually opening up, the blood circulation to your brain. And by doing that, it's preparing yourself to receive information better, in a calmer way, not in a cluttered way. Oh my God, I got to receive so much information. No. So this becomes a good way to receive the information. The next one I do is a happy shoulders. You raise your shoulders up and you say happy shoulders. And when I drop down, I'm releasing. So that's also part of my beginning massage. inhale, happy, shoulders. Inhale, happy, shoulders. Mahesh, can you play the next slide, please? So when we are doing this, we are actually dropping and releasing all the tension from our body, especially from our shoulders, because our pressure point is here. So anything that we listen and we are tensed about, we do this, right? We're tensed. So it all goes to our shoulder muscles. So this becomes a good way to start, the session. I've given you 3 types of massage, but you can do as many. You can always improvise, create your own massage. Feel free, go bold, be bold to create your own types of massages, because by doing so, you are actually opening up yourself to your class and you're warming up together and you're feeling together. Now, can you see this visual? I love this visual. It's actually taken from the one of the ballet companies that created a tree. Now, this visual is exactly how I understand movement. When we listen to any concept in life, any concept, when we start with our feet, I'm going to stand a little bit away and talk. If you can't hear me, I'll repeat it after that because I want to show you the. When we hear any concept, and when it begins from our feet, starts from our feet, grows into our heart. So any concept, if you're learning it from the flow, Mother Earth gives you the concept to learn it from the flow, go into your heart, it reaches your brain last. So then you shoot out like a big, big tree. So begin the concept from the flow, going into your heart, then going into your brain last to shoot out like a tree. Yeah, so I'll repeat that even while sitting close. The reason why I showed you this visual is visual can actually, any kind of visual can inspire us. Visual imagery inspires us like no other, a visual understanding. So if you can feel free like a tree to expand your knowledge, nothing like it. So this is how I receive every concept. That's why I'm doing my class also on the ground, because Mother Earth, the flow, gives us a lot more good energy to practice. And I would suggest to do your session with your students in a semicircle sitting on the flow, because then you are embracing, like start with sitting on the floor and then I take it to different levels. So it's very important to begin like that, because when you do so, you are embracing the flow, you're embracing good energy, and you are taking it forward and opening out like a tree of knowledge, which I hope you get to do. Next slide, please. So I was talking about muscle, why we are warming up the muscle. And this is why. Muscle has memory. Whatever you lose, you can gain back again, as long as you are willing to go back at it again. So what I was talking about is when we are warming up our muscles and when you're receiving, even right now, whatever you're listening, if you're just listening with your entire body, not depending on a pen and paper, leave the pen and paper aside. If you're just listening to whatever is being said, just with allowing your body to relax and listen, your muscles are absorbing the memory too. And if whatever, even from your childhood, whatever you really enjoyed, that memory has stayed longer with you because your muscles, your body remembered it. So muscle memory has a beautiful memory, which is even more in the case of deaf and blind students. So it's very important to embrace muscle memory and do a lot with the body, which is what we are going to do now. So we've started with the beginning, and now we're going to go into the middle, the core of the activity. That's when you plan your themes. You can plan any themes. There's no limit. There's no limit. There's no, that's the beauty about movement therapy. You don't have to limit and say, I'll take only a specific theme. You can take any theme, from nature to shapes to anything and it'll work with your body. That's the beauty of it. So I'm going to show you 5 different activities that will work, and you can create your own too. So activity number 1, water. I love water, and I hope you can introduce water into your class, the sounds with water. I am doing it in a very small way because right now we are using online medium, but in your class, be bold to take it into a bucket. I'm sure, every school will have, buckets of water so you can play with anything. So I'm starting with just a simple glass of water. And of course, you all know this. This is a marble, goalie, or whatever you want to call it. So it's a marble. And you can take pebbles, stones, anything, and drop it. Just drop it. When you're dropping it, create a game for your students. So that means every time I drop, let's say all of you are standing up, and every time I'm dropping a goalie, you take 1 step forward. So every time I'm dropping 1, 2, you will take a step forward. And by taking a step forward, you are moving in the room. So every time you can drop a goalie, or even I'm working with different types of sound. So I'm adding more types. So when I'm making this sound, I will tell my students, now run around the room faster. Run, 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 run. Stop. Run, 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 run. Stop. So when you're playing with speed in the room and exploring space, they get to understand it, but because of also visual understanding of connecting the body with a visual understanding. That's why I believe visual has the power to help us think beyond. Okay, so that was activity number 1, to play with sounds of water. You can even take a big mug and drop water into a big bucket of water. You can take bigger things to drop in. It'll be fun. You can even play with different textures of liquids. It doesn't have to be water. It can be even oil. It depends on how you want to play with it with your students. But be prepared. Keep things. I've kept cloths. I've kept things ready to even clean up. So be prepared for your class to even do the cleanup after that. Yeah. So activity number 2. I love this. I love this prop. Everybody has it in their house. We all have it in our homes. But the sound, the texture, you can play so much with it. You can play music, and there are so many games to play with it. What I do is I play around with it. I tell them, let the newspaper fall, and before the newspaper falls on the ground, you must move around to another corner, So before I drop it down, they have to move to another corner. Or I play with playing with wind. So when I'm waving it, I tell them they have to imitate the movement of the newspaper. So that means if I'm doing this with the newspaper, if I'm doing this like a wave, I will ask the kids to do a wave too. So they will do the wave too. So you can say, whatever I'm doing with the newspaper, you are the newspaper. So you have become the prop. So you can I hope you're understanding what I'm doing. Yeah, so you can play with newspaper like crazy. There is another game that we play, which we used to play even at birthday parties. I don't know how many of you all play that game. It's about folding the newspaper and standing and dancing on it. And when the music stops, you fold again into 2 halves. So first you fold like this, and you stand and you dance on the paper. And then again you will fold. And then again you'll dance when the music stops. And then again you will fold. And then again you will dance. And then again you will fold. And then again you will dance. And it's fun because they're working on their balance. They're working with a prop. And this is such a simple prop. You can even use dry leaves. You can use many things. Yeah. So this is my prop number 2. Prop number 3, activity number 3 is sari fabric. You can play with this. We play a lot with, kindergarten children, but we can play with all ages, is where you keep fabric. I've already laid it out on the ground, where you keep it. I'm going to play some music, and you can just play with the fabric. So I'm just going to play some music and play with the fabric, and then you can do it whichever way you want to. The idea is you can place the fabric on the ground and ask them to lie on it, and then you can move them around. You can play with it. I'm just going to play some music. My music has become soft, but I'm just going to play. Can you play the next slide, please, Mahesh? With sari fabric, you can actually play with also by asking the other kids to move it around while one person is in the center. So it becomes like a little parachute. It becomes like a parachute fabric where you can go in and out, cover them in. Cover them in and out. Sorry. 1 minute. My fabric has... Yeah. Sorry, I just, the fabric had pushed my video down. So, yeah, so you can actually play with fabric a lot by going in and out, covering the child, moving it about, dropping it on their face. There are lots of things you can do with the fabric. The texture, again, I'm going back to feel. When you give options of stuff that they can feel on the skin, feel with the people around you through the wind, they really take it to the next level. Now this next activity number 4, I like a lot because it's something that you use in your kitchen. Chapati maav, okay, atta dough. So can you see the visual inside on the screen? So that's finger play. We call that finger play. And in finger play, what you're doing is you use chapati maav like this, as your own finger puppets. You can make it like your own finger puppets, like this. And when you are using it, this is easy and it's edible, so it's safe. It's safe for children. It's safe for anyone. So it's safe to use, and the texture is lovely. In Montessori, they use this a lot. Montessori use chapati maav for everything. It's their natural play dough. So by doing this, I'm going to sing you a song that we do in finger play. But what you can do is if you type on YouTube finger play songs, you'll get many songs. Okay? So this is how you start. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point to the ceiling, point to the floor, and lay them in your lap, lap, lap. Two little fingers, two little fingers, two little fingers, tap, tap, tap. Point to the ceiling, point to the floor, and lay them on your lap, lap, lap. Three little fingers, three little fingers, three little fingers, tap, tap, tap. Point to the ceiling, point to the floor, and lay them on your lap, lap, lap. 4 and 5 seem to like each other. They've become best friends. 4 little fingers, 4 little fingers, 4 little fingers, tap, tap, tap. Point to the ceiling, point to the floor, and lay them on your lap. 5 little fingers, 5 little fingers, 5 little fingers, tap, tap, tap. Point to the ceiling, point to the floor, and hide them behind your back. Yeah. So this is something you can do with the kids, and they will play with it, enjoy. The students will love it because the texture, they will keep on playing with it. So make sure that you have even, the cleanup time for them. Plan your class for this kind of an activity because you do need to keep, your props ready. But the texture and the fun, it's really a lot of fun and you can learn a lot. Finger play is a lot with our fine motor skills. We learn a lot about fine sensitive activities and also identify where they are going with their own career choices through finger play. So on the finger play note, I want to introduce you to someone very special. So it's Uncle Jerry. Uncle Jerry, can you come on? Can you switch on your camera? So I call him Uncle Jerry. He's a close, family friend to me, and his name is actually Jerry Fernandez, Jerome Fernandez. Uncle, can you please come on? Can you switch on? Uncle Jerry? Uncle Jerry, can you please come on? One minute. Yeah, Uncle Jerry, he's there.
He's there, but he's
he's not. Uncle, can you hear me? So, Uncle Jerome Fernandez, let me introduce a little bit about what he's going to do with us for activity number 5. He is a very special violin player who has had 56 years of experience in the film industry. He has worked with, you name the biggest of music directors from Ilayaraja to Anirudh to Arijit Singh to anyone. You name the best of, film music directors, and Jerome Fernandez has played with all of them with his very special instrument that's close to him, his violin. He's a fabulous violinist. You can see the passion when he plays, and I would like him to play. Yeah. Uncle? Has he come on?
Yes.
So I would like him to play a classical piece of music.
Good afternoon,
which is,
sir. Thank you for joining. Sir, please
Uncle,
unmute your audio.
Unmute yourself. Can you please unmute?
Keep your audio on, sir. Your video is on, but you are muted.
Uncle, can you keep your video and audio on? So I want you all to listen to this classical musical piece that he's about to play. And it's a Western classical piece. The reason why I chose this piece is because, especially for deaf students, Western classical music has a lot of high notes. And it's very important for them. They feel the vibration the most in the highest notes, and Western classical music does it. So if you can play Western classical music in your classes, it would be, you are reaching out to your students. And that's what I wanted all of you all to experience. So maybe when Uncle Jerry is playing his piece, close your eyes and listen, because he is really a beautiful musician. Uncle, can you unmute yourself, Uncle? Sanam, has he unmuted?
Yeah. Yes, unmuted.
Has he unmuted himself?
Yeah, he has unmuted.
Okay.
But he's not able to hear us. I think there is some problem with his audio. Can you hear us? Are we audible, sir?
Can you hear us, Uncle? Can you hear us? Start playing, Uncle. Maybe we'll hear you. I can't see his screen. Why can't I see his screen?
No, his video is visible. I pinned the screen also.
Yeah, pin. Can you pin him on screen?
I have pinned. Now he has kept his video also off. So now if his video was on, only audio was not.
Uncle, can you unmute and play, please?
Let him check his audio on the laptop.
He just did. Before the session, he was audible. Okay. While we'll give Uncle a few minutes to get to play his piece, while he is taking a moment to get ready. Uncle, can you text me? Can you mention when you're ready? All right, we'll give him time. I want to show you a few other instruments that I like to explore. So this is called, obviously you know what this is, right? So this is a frog, and the sound, you can really feel it even in the vibration when you're holding it. So you can actually hear the sound. Okay. So this gives you the sound of a frog. It's really nice when the kids are around you to feel that. So in my cool down session, we always use a singing bowl. So this is called a meditation bowl or a singing bowl, and this is perfect actually for deaf students and blind students, because if the child is experimenting with it, they will feel it with the vibrations right underneath here. They will feel the vibration. So you will feel it in the vibration. I'm going to play it. You can hear it. And then, I'll show you how I stop the sound like this. Okay? You see how I've stopped it? So I will play it again. You see how I've stopped it abruptly? Now I'll let it flow till the very end. It's very good for meditation. It's what Buddhists use, but this is a perfect instrument to use, especially for the deaf community, because they will feel the vibrations through, the palm of the hand. You'll feel it right at the center. Yeah. So this is how. I can still feel the vibration. The sound is still going. But since we are in a very different online platform, there's always a delayed response also. That's the lag because of the kind of data each of us are using. Internet is still not very advanced to understand sound to the very minute second. But this is a very effective bowl to use for your entire family also. It's very good to keep calm. It's very good to understand vibrations, and it's very good to share the sound. So this is how we do it in the cool down. And another thing that is very important in my cool down, can we play the next slide, please, Mahesh? Mahesh, can you play the next slide? Okay. And in the cool, yeah, this is very important because.
Uncle, can you hear us now? Is your audio okay?
Uncle, can you play? I can't hear him yet.
Even he is not able to hear us.
He has to check his volume. Maybe his volume of his device.
Yeah. Check the volume or his headset is connected.
Ask him to exit and enter. Just text him and see if he can exit and re-enter. Okay, so the reason why I wanted to end with this quote, don't let your mind bully your body, is because half the stress that we do, and it transcends into our class, is because when we receive information from our brain, we're going only downwards, spiraling downwards. But when you receive the information through your entire body, you go outwards. And that is why it's very important, any information, feel comfortable with your body, and your kids will teach it the most because their senses are alive. Their senses, every disability gives you another perfect ability to open out the other areas. So the other areas with the body, the senses work much more, especially with a disability. It's much more, for me, that's the genius part. That's the part that I love to embrace from the kids. And that's my learning curve. That's where I learn from them. So I would like to give you the same quote and the same knowledge to don't let your mind bully your body. Allow your body to receive every information. And when you're cooling down, as just like how I played a very cooling down instrument, yeah, you could also do a very simple massage, like massaging your ears first, because you are the ones talking, you are the ones hearing your volume. So sometimes you might be louder than you think because you have to get it across to your students. So it's very important to massage your ears. Then I take 2 fingers, massage the forehead, because we've just emptied out information, we've just given information. So you want to relax now. Yeah, now you're bringing back your heart rate to normal. So you want every massage to actually, now you're going inward, like how we went outward. When you finish a class, you want to go inward. So then, like how in the beginning I went outward, right? I said send all the tired energy outward. Now you want to go inward, you want to be calm. Maybe if you jumped about, did many things, you want to stay calm. So that's why the massage for the forehead. Then you rub your hands and you massage your entire face. You rub your hands. You massage your eyes. If you're doing online, then you need this a lot more. And just place the same warmth on your hands, just to be kind to your body. Yeah, just to be kind to your body. So this is the format of a cool down. What I do in my cool down is I play soft music, just like the soft music I played at the beginning. For all those of you who entered, you were listening to some piano music. I played that at the end too, when you're lying down, and I ask them to either, I place fabric on them for them to feel again soft, or I do things like I use the Swiss ball and I massage the entire back to keep a calm. The flow is your best friend. That's why I do everything on the flow. I really wish you would do the same. When you're doing the activity, you stand up, you can move around. But when you begin and when you end, you would like to be on the flow, staying calm. Uncle Jerome Fernandez has joined us again. I'm hoping his audio will work, because I really want you all to hear his music. He is a fabulous musician and he inspires so many, and I'd like the same to happen here. Uncle, is your audio working now? Mahesh, can you play the next slide? So on that note, I want to, I think, Sanam, is his audio working?
Yeah, now we can hear some sound. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear us, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. Introducing everyone, Mr. Jerome Fernandez, fabulous musician, uncle. I really want them to get a taste of Western classical music through your fabulous art and through your fabulous music. 56 years in the industry, and you're going to hear him. I would suggest close your eyes and listen. It's beautiful. Over to you, uncle.
I'm going to play a gypsy piece in the classical repertoire called Zardis. I'm just going to play excerpts for a few seconds, okay? Then. So this is just the first part of it. Then I'll play the second part, which is all chords, okay? And then comes the harmonic section like this. Okay, now I'll play. So this is the chord section of the same piece. The next portion is a harmonic section, which sounds like a bird. It is called harmonics in violin. See? And then we come back to the beginning of the piece, which is so this is the end of the piece. Okay, it's called Zardis, composed by Mr. V. Monty.
Thank you, uncle.
This is mind blowing. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So, now we'll throw the questions open to everyone. so that, if they have questions for Uncle or for myself. The reason why I requested Uncle because Uncle has been playing a lot of film music too. Exactly. Thank you, Abdul Rakib. All credit to Uncle, to Jerome Uncle. But the reason why I requested for Western classical music is the pitch, the tone is very good for deaf community to listen to. So that's why embrace a lot more Western classical music, it'll help. Any questions?
Any
Thank you.
questions from participants?
Remember, I began with the session with saying no judgment, so you can just throw as many questions. This is the best part, is to empty yourselves with any doubts, anything, just,
Thank you, Mrs. Kumari.
You can even type the questions if you want to.
Ma'am, can you explain
Thank you.
activity 4, ma'am?
Can you explain?
Activity 4, that time my internet was something got
thing? Okay, the finger play? You're talking about the finger play that I did with, So activity 4.
Song I got 5 little fingers.
Yeah. So why I did it? Yeah, which one?
5 little fingers, that's
the song
you did. No? Why you did it, that I wanted.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked the question. So why I did it is because finger play, we do it, when I worked with babies, mother and babies programs, we started it with finger play, but it's very important. Thank you. It's very important for us to go back to finger play for all of us, especially people with arthritis, people with, as we end, when we end, as we get older, as we age, our fingers, our sensory, fine motor skills, we need focus. And so it's very important at the beginning of our life and towards the end when we're getting older. But when we do finger play with kids, to understand, we're going back to the focus, to going back to a very, focused, and, the fine motor skills get defined. So I only showed one example, but you can do many. With finger play, you can even draw puppet faces. I wanted to do that, but I thought it'll distract us for the entire session, and that's why I didn't draw. You can even take a sketch pen, draw faces, and even tell a story. A New Zealander once told me a beautiful story using the fingers only. So, thank you. And it's something you can always, I'm so happy that you asked this question. Thank you.
Andrea?
Yes, Uncle.
Sir, yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I have to attend a luncheon. They are waiting for me. I'm invited for a birthday party.
Thank you, Uncle, for your presence.
Can I leave?
Thank you. Yes, you can leave, Uncle.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye. God bless you all.
Thank you for
Your music
Wonderful session.
inspired us. Thank you for being there. I really wanted them to feel it live. I wanted a live, nothing like a live performance. It changes the whole thing. I'm glad you were there. I wish we could do this more often, but thank you.
I hope next time I can perform for the Spastic Society in person.
I will. Yes, we will definitely do it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
It will be free of charge. No charge. Not even convenience. Okay?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
For sure, Uncle. Guaranteed it's going to happen soon.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Uncle. Thank you.
Bye. God bless you all. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you for your fabulous music. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Uncle's music is brilliant, and you should, I'm hoping every one of you will use music in your sessions. I use a lot of music, but this time, since I had to deliver, since it was a webinar, I restrained only because sound clarity through online medium is still not very efficient. And so I've been doing a lot of webinars, and I realized that the sound quality sometimes is not very great, what we're hearing. And I really would like you all to embrace music and use it in your sessions, because both the deaf and the blind community will appreciate it with music. There's a lot to work with that angle too. And classical music has its own joy. So, any other questions? You could even type it if you want to.
Margot, shall we go?
Do we have any other questions?
No, ma'am, no. Excellent, lively class.
Thank you. With movement, I think it's very important for us to just do it all. I wish I wanted to do a lot standing, but I'm using the headset, and so when you're using the headset, you're restrained to upper body. And in fact, I want to do an improvisation game with Uncle Jerome. I thought we would play music, and we'll use only our upper body, and then play music, then use only our lower body, and then use our whole body. But the sound, Uncle was struggling with sound, but you can do it in your class too. There are many tools. If you just, which other fabrics can be used in music session. You can use any fabric, especially if you're using all your dupattas. You have in your house dupattas, you have in your house, fabrics of any kind of thin sheets, butter paper. If you have butter paper, is a beautiful sound, even for, yeah. Why? Why for what, Jigna? I didn't get your question. Why? I just saw why. So yeah. So when you're using different fabrics, you can play it in the room. It's visual. Yeah. Thank you, Jigna. So you can play it. When you're playing it, when you are playing it in the room big, and if 4 people are using the fabric and the others are running underneath it, it's what about end? Very good, Salina. This was the end. Thank you, Salina. I brought in the end with the cool down meditation. And I brought in the end with the cool down massage of massaging our forehead, our ears, and our face, because we need to bring our heart. If you touch your heartbeat when you're doing your session, everyone is excited. Everyone is, moving about. Everyone's doing things. Whether it's even if you're talking, your heartbeat goes up a little bit higher when you're getting excited. So to bring the person to an inner calm, you need to do soft things by telling them to massage. Especially when I did this in prisons, I realized how much, people who have done crime are people, majority of them have just not slept, had peaceful sleep. So, and it's the common thing that all of us are facing. So you want to bring an inner calm. So that's why the massage on the forehead, the ears, keeping a warm, a warmth to your skin. When you're doing the warm feeling, you are touching and you're feeling exactly like how when we were babies, we all had those massages. But we need it as adults too. I don't know why we're denying ourselves. And this instrument is beautiful. The meditation bowl was also part of the cool down. So that was part of my cool down. I also do a massage with the Swiss ball on the back, on the spine, but I don't have anyone here to do it on. And I wish we were all in the same room, then I could have done it for all of you. But maybe in the near future, we will all meet together and I can do it with you in a classroom setting, in our semicircle sacred space of trust. Yeah. Good question. I enjoyed that question. Any more questions? It would be nice if I, to really, give me your feedback, because it's very important. In movement therapy, you are constantly improvising and creating and innovating, and feedback helps. So it's really good to know what each of you are feeling. Thank you, Venita. I've shared a link. I don't know whether, Sanam, can you share the link with them here about the film I wanted them to see done by a...
Yeah, we can do
so
it.
I've shared, it's a 10-minute...
Yeah, he's doing
Yeah. It's a 10-minute link. Do we have time to play it now?
Yes, you can do it. We have time. No problem.
Can you play it or?
Yeah, it is being played there.
Okay. Thank you. So this is done by a Korean filmmaker and a musician who is blind, and he's talking about his life. If you have headsets, I would suggest you listen to it because the sound quality is done very well. And they had a session recently. Thank you. Thank you for your presence, and I hope you will enjoy this film. If not, I could even ask, yeah, it's being played, but the sound is not coming.
Mahesh sir, please check the
Mahesh's
volume.
sound is not there.
Check the volume.
Mahesh, your sound is still muted. Mahesh, your sound is still muted, so we can't hear. Maybe what we'll do is, Sanam, you could share the link with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll do it. I'll share the link in the chat box.
Yeah.
And as well as in the group. So that
Yeah, you can watch it on your phones.
Yeah.
This is, so if everyone can watch it on your phone, it's available only till today, and after that they take off this link. This is a beautiful movie. It's only 10 minutes. It's done by a blind Korean, and it's beautiful. It's about his personal experience of how, his entire journey. He's put it in 10 minutes. So it's only 10 minutes of your time, but it's really worth it. I really wish you could all watch it. And Sanam will share the link. You just have to type the link. The movie is called Two Different Eyes. So you just have to click on that two different eyes. It'll say enter. Click on enter and watch the movie. It's only 10 minutes of your time, but it's so worth it. If you're going to be working with the blind community, this is one of the best movies for just 10 minutes. It's his personal experience, and you will learn a lot from just the movie alone. It's a beautiful movie, and you can see it just from your phone. It's over. They will close the link after today. So today is the last day. So if you want to watch it, please watch it. If you want to specially work with the blind community, this is useful. Thank you. I hope your body has received the information, and I hope you can embrace, even if you can embrace few parts of the session, that's enough, and you can create your own. So go forward and be bold and confident and create and explore, have fun and enjoy it. Most important thing is when you're enjoying your session, your students will get it. Irrespective of whatever the disability is, everybody will get it. Thank you. Have a wonderful life. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea ma'am. It was really a wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Like we said, how the movement should be rhythmic and expressive. So it was really great to have you here in the afternoon session. And I think they all enjoyed your section very well. So everyone were very interactive today. Yesterday's session, no one was coming forward to interact with themselves. But today, it was a live session. And it was very...
Thank you. I had fun too. I mean, I wish we were all in the same room though, then we would have experienced another version of things. But yeah, so thank you so much. And I was so happy that Uncle Jerry could also play his music. I really want live music. It changes the room setting. Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. And so I'm hoping that, everyone take it into your lives and make the most of it. Every information is meant to be emptied out and feel free. And that's what we all should be doing, with every session, with every teaching of ours. So I wish you all the best in your careers and the way you're moving forward. I wish each one of you the best.
Thank you so much. You made us
Thank you.
realize how to explore the movement. Every single movement, how expressive it is, and with music, how it can change a person's mind. It was a wonderful session. Thank you once again for accepting our invite.
Thank you, Sanam, for helping me coordinate. Thank you, Mahesh, for doing the visuals also. Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you can just share the link with them, I would really love it if they could watch
Yeah,
the movie.
I'll share it right.
All right.
Thank you.
On that note, thank you all for the questions. Thank you, Mahesh.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All
Thank you,
right.
ma'am.
Thank you. Bye.
Participants, please hold on. I'll just give the link of that movie. So you have to watch it today because it is only open till today. I'll just give the link in the chat box. Please hold on.
It's not resume.
So this is the link to the movie. It's done by a blind person. So I have mentioned the link for the movie, and it's a very short video, and it's done by a blind person. Please watch the video. It will be only for 10 minutes, and it will open only for today. So till today you can watch the movie, and tomorrow if you go, the link will be inactive. And if you go, click the link, you will get a page. In that page, you have portion 2 different eyes. There you need to go and click enter. So I'll just try here once again. I hope everyone can see the screen. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you
Yes,
click,
ma'am.
if you click the link, you have this virtual connect. Go down. Here you have 2 different eyes. So you need to scroll down, and here you find enter. So please click enter, and then you get about the documentary film, and you can play it here.
Two Different Eyes,
Yeah, it's
a
playing.
film written and directed by Joo Ho Lee and Joo Sung Lee. Duration 10 minutes 50 seconds. This film has subtitles in English and audio description. Audio description is an important accessibility resource. It allows people who are blind and have vision impairment to fully experience movies, TV shows, and other visual content by describing what is on the screen in between dialogues or narratives. Together with subtitling, audio description makes it possible for everyone to enjoy the film.
We are standing on the top of a water body. Text produced by Studio Pebs. A rooftop view of a beautiful city. We are at a busy beach. A couple holding bicycles with them are moving towards us. Text music by Yu Song Lee. Group of people and their friends talking on the beach against the setting sun. A building on the right and two poles having flags on the left. A grand water body. Text directed by Yu Ho Lee. A rooftop view of a city in evening. Cars are passing by. Title: Two different eyes fade in against a grand building lit up during evening. A visually impaired young boy is wearing his bag standing in his room. There is a synthesizer and a computer on his left. He exits his home after setting his hair. He's walking through different roads and streets.
I was remembering when I was a 5th grade in the elementary school, my family went to watch the first series of Harry Potter. And I was remembering the music from that movie, and I was like, oh yeah, that music was so good. So let's try that.
He's moving towards a big white building.
I got into Berkeley as a performance major, and I saw there is a film scoring. Because I was into composition than being on the stage, I thought, okay, this might be an option.
He is in an auditorium. There are mic stands, chairs, and some people on the stage. He is standing in the middle of the stage.
If you make a score and then bring it to the stage, and the process of making real sounds, that makes me really energetic and like being like a human.
The boy is arranging papers with musical notations on a stand.
Just before we start, I wanted to let you know, because Ju asked me, he has some vision impairment, so he's going to be looking at the score on the side.
And I cannot really follow the score right at the same time, so my conducting might be a little out of the way sometimes.
He is controlling musical session with his patent stick. He is at the beach recording sound of the waves in his recording device.
My name is Chuseung Lee, and people call me Ju. I studied at Berkeley Boston campus, and I'm studying for my master's in scoring for film, TV, and video games at Berkeley Valencia.
Lee is composing the musical piece on his computer. A vintage footage of a newborn baby appears on the screen.
I was born with a visual impairment, a disease called FEVR. It refers to familiar exudative vitreoretinopathy. It is an inherited disease with abnormal retinal angiogenesis leading to vascularization around the retina. My left eye has low vision with FEVR and has had a cataract since I was 14. It can even cause some people to lose their vision, and I lost mine on my right eye.
He is sitting near a water body.
When I was a kid, there was a lot bullying going on because of my vision.
So you can watch the movie from your mobile or laptop. So it would be better if you have a headset and watch it. I hope this session would have been very useful to you. So I request the participants to fill the post-test questionnaire. Yesterday, those who did not submit the post-test questions, please submit it by today. And today I'll be giving you the link for the second day post-test questions. So please submit it by today. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'll give the link for the second day post test in the chat box as well as in the group. Okay. So please hold on. I'll give it in the chat box right now. So I have text the link for today's post test. So everybody fill in and submit it to us. So only if I get all the 3 post tests, I can send it to RCI for your points. So it is mandatory that you fill in the post test questions. Okay. So thank you everyone for attending the session today. I hope you all enjoyed the session today. And tomorrow we have session on advocacy and vocational training.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tomorrow's session also, please pay attention. Morning we have a session on pre-vocational training, assessment, and what are all the models of employment, how you can go about in training a person with deafblindness or multiple disabilities to go for any kind of employment, how to assess, train them. So all sorts of things will be discussed in the morning. Then you have another session on sexual education and mental health, and the final session would be on advocacy for persons with deafblindness. So do not miss any session. Kindly pay attention and be interactive with the resources. Thank you all for your support and cooperation. So I'm going to end the call. Bye. And tomorrow you can join with the same link. I don't think you find any difficulty in joining the same link, no? Because morning few people were not able to join with the same link. We can join with the same link tomorrow. So please join by 10 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. So 10:20 our session will start. So I request all the participants to join by 10 o'clock. Thank you. Thank you all for your support.